Now, last year, the slogan Black Lives Matter was tweeted 8 million times. Those three words came to be used as a protest against police killings of black people in the US. The phrase gained so much traction, many have wondered if it can't transform itself into a broader civil rights movement. This year, of course, sees a presidential election. Politics has taken some surprising turns and rage is in the air. So could Black Lives Matter shift the American debate on race? Mukul Devichand, the editor of BBC Trending, has been to the US to find out.
It's 2014 and Laquan McDonald, age 17, is high and carrying a knife. The rest of the police video is too graphic to show. He falls after one bullet, but 15 more pierce his still body. When it went viral, there were street protests, then a murder charge for the officer, and the mayor, Rahm Emanuel, sacking his police chief and apologising. Black Lives Matter first trended during the Ferguson, Missouri protests in 2014 over the killing of an 18-year-old, Michael Brown Jr.
In the immediate aftermath, I was just filled with rage, and I was sitting on my couch on a Friday night watching my social media feed just stream these horrific images. It looked like a war zone, and it was incomprehensible to me that this was happening 5 hours away from my home.
We stand divided.
Black Lives Matter emerged in response to the extrajudicial killing of unarmed black men by police.
An underlying anger had been unleashed. Of the 1,000+ people killed by deadly police force across the US last year, a disproportionate number were black.
When Dr. King was barred from making the march,
Black civil rights movements changed America forever. But the new generation, say some of them, sold out.
At some point, the civil rights movement of our forefathers had to be subsidized. People had to get paid, people had to get jobs, and that money came from outside of the black community. And I think that that is part of the reason why the work did not go far enough.
Reverend Jesse Jackson, Chicago's giant of civil rights history and a mentor to Barack Obama, used an interview with us to respond.
Learning to live together and not die apart in some foolish way is a part of the strength of maturity. If your focus is just to take over your local ethnic ward, you may only need folk who live in that ward. But if you want to take over the city, the county, the state, you must see the role in relationship to other people who share the same grievances.
Urban, poor, high-crime areas like Chicago's South Side are the new theatres of protest.
Let my people go. Let my people go. Set my people free.
Today's action is about attracting new recruits to the movement.
We are doing a train takeover. We are riding the pink line through the south and west sides of Chicago.
Cause white trigger and black face be life risky.
New cases emerging from all over the country mean the hashtag keeps surging.
Cedric case, Laquan case, Dakota case, Ronald Johnson case, all these cases are just straight cover-ups. It's a pattern and practice of the Chicago Police Department.
I ain't got no, not only justice, but closure, information about my child. And it's
Pansy
sad.
Edwards came here to lobby for her son, Dakota Bright, who was shot by police in 2012. Teenagers can be armed here, and the police say Dakota had a gun. She doesn't believe that.
In many of these cases, the police will maintain that they are people who have been engaged in criminal activity, known criminals. Could that be the case with your son?
Baby was a baby. That was he was at his grandma's house. They killed him for no reason, and they got every excuse in the world to why they killed him. They not, it's sad though, because they ain't hurt him because he not here. They hurt me and my family.
The police union point out that it's dangerous work they do. Over 200 people have been injured or killed in gun violence there, just this year so far.
I don't think our officers are involved in shooting quicker because of someone's race. Some of the worst neighborhoods in this country are a stone's throw from where we are right now. I'm not going to put myself in jeopardy to hesitate when deadly force is required.
We were able to actually do these things.
But in the popularity contest that is the race for the presidential nomination, Black Lives Matter issues are getting airtime.
It has been heartbreaking and incredibly outraging to see the constant stories of young men who have been killed by police officers.
The father of shot teenager Michael Brown Jr. is now a national campaigner for black rights.
He was my best man at my wedding. He was a jokester, a clowner.
A federal investigation and a grand jury probe into his son's killing recommended no charges be brought against the officer. Still, his father believes that the rebirth of black radicalism that his son's death helped inspire will now change America.
Mike opened those doors for other people, if not him, get some type of justice. We tired, and ain't no more sitting down, you know, or sweeping up under the carpet. You know, we standing on top of the carpet now, you know, and letting you know that we're not taking it no more.
There's nothing new about poor, urban, black communities like this taking issue with the criminal justice system. But the fact that Black Lives Matter unites in protest across America with each new killing is an act of defiance that is already affecting the national debate.
Mukul Devachand reporting there. Let's get a transatlantic perspective on these issues. Joining me from Washington, D.C., Danielle Belton, who's associate editor at TheRoot.com. And with me in the studio, Stafford Scott, coordinator of Tottenham Rights and Race Advocacy Officer at the Monitoring Group. I'd like to just start with you, if I could, Danielle. What is the difference between Black Lives Matter and earlier vintages of civil rights movements, do you think?
You know, I don't actually see that big of a difference. When you look at earlier movements that involved young people, you had young people like Julian Bond who were involved at Freedom Summer and were on the front lines of fighting for black liberation. And the same thing is happening now. It just seems different because so much time has passed and people's viewpoints have been colored about how people look at in a nostalgic kind of way back at the civil rights movement. But to me, I don't necessarily see that much of a difference. It's young people fighting for black liberation, fighting for change, fighting for freedom.
Yeah, we saw Michael Brown's father saying Black Lives Matter could change America. Is that your perception?
I definitely believe that it can and has in many respects. You have a presidential race going on right now where candidates are talking about how Black Lives Matter, why Black Lives Matter. They're talking about issues around mass incarceration. They're talking about issues around decriminalization. And I don't feel like we'd be having these conversations about police brutality, about body cameras, if it weren't for the fact that so many people have taken to the streets demanding equality.
Stafford, to what extent has it come to the UK?
Well, first of all, I've got to say, as Danielle said, she was speaking about young people, so I'm not such a young person and I'm not so into the social media and such, but Black Lives Matter absolutely resonates with us. I think that we spiritually support what the brothers and sisters are trying to do in the USA.
I mean, to some extent, race is a much bigger issue in American politics than it is in British politics, correct?
Well, they talk about race in the USA, and in the UK we try to do that kind of English way of doing things, understated and sometimes in denial of its existence and
right,
the
well,
reality.
That was going to be my question, was are we in denial, or are the Americans, they just got a worse problem so they have to talk about it more, I suppose was...
I think because of the numbers in the States and the numbers of people are being shot and killed by the state, by police, obviously it's going to be a much more significant issue there, but it's as significant for us here in the UK. It's as significant for the parents of Azelle Rodney as it is for the parents of Mark Duggan.
Danielle, can we just talk about anger? Because you talked about American politics this year, presidential election. They are talking about Black Lives Matter. But, I mean, the most notable feature, at least the one that we're all talking about here, is the kind of white anger that has led to an outpouring of support for Donald Trump. And I just wonder whether there's is there a danger that everybody's going to end up shouting, if you like, and no one's going to end up listening or hearing anything? It's sort of a dysfunction in American politics, perhaps.
I mean, there's always a level of dysfunction in American politics. You know, people are very passionate. You know, tensions run really, really high. This is a very important election year, and we have a very uncharacteristic, boisterous, candidate running in Donald Trump, who says things that are often come across as racist, and that's problematic in our discourse. I feel like the anger that's coming from the Black Lives Matter movement isn't so much anger as in rage. It's really more about self-love. It's like you love yourself, you love your community, so you're upset about what's happening to it, and you want to see action, you want to see progress, you want to see your politicians pass laws and make changes that'll improve the lives of Black people everywhere in the United States, and by extension, all Americans.
How dangerous do you think, if you like, the white anger, the Trump movement, and maybe I'm unfairly characterizing it, but how dangerous do you see that to the Black cause?
I feel like the discourse is kind of ugly and is rather disgusting, and it is concerning to me, but I don't think that it'll prevail in the long run. The arc of progress in the United States has always leaned towards getting better in regards to race relations, about having these conversations and pushing for equality. We've always gone on a path of progress. And so, yes, things look bad. Yes, it sounds bad. But I don't think that the Trumps of the world are going to win this one.
Right. Anger, Stafford. How useful is anger as a tool, or how much does it scare the other side into counter-reacting?
I mean, it's a great question, but is it the right question? Because for me, the question is the anger justified?
Right.
And if the anger is justified...
Then anger's the right answer.
And the kickback, the fact that there's a kickback, how can that then be justified? It can't be justifiable. It's people who are used to having privilege who are kicking back because they don't want to share some of those privilege with less advantaged people. Anger only happens when you try to tell the state and explain to the state what is happening to your community, and the state refuses to listen, and the state denies, and the state refuses to support or assist. And that's what happens in the UK. We saw the memo from Letwin, the advice he gave to Thatcher 30 years ago about how to deny our community any state support or help. And the impact of those decisions are something that we as a community are living with today. So I think anger is absolutely justified. It's just a pity that it has to be shown. And we hope and pray that we don't have our young people being killed on the streets like we're seeing in the States, or that anger will definitely be shown to people throughout this country, regardless of their position.
Stafford, Danielle, thank you both very much.
Thank you.
Now, there's a German equivalent